Everyone, good morning. So this is the session on the topic of technological revolution is negatively impacting employment. Agree or disagree? And I prepared the fact sheet for this. This is available in the WhatsApp group as well, the link. And yeah, so without further ado, I'm gonna get the session started, and we're gonna be seeing Prince host this session today. So he'll be moderating the session. So Prince, if you're ready, we can get started, I think. Maybe you can set some opening context, and then we can inform the others as to how to proceed. And also just for the newcomers, who people who have joined for the first time, the way we proceed with the session is that you'll see under on the bottom you will see the option to reactions. So click on the reactions and then raise your hand, and you will get the chance to speak. So we will follow a process where this is an open participation platform, so anybody can participate, and regardless of whether you're for or against, you can raise your hand and you will get a turn to speak, and you can maybe take like 2 to 3 minutes or maximum like 4 minutes to make your point, and then the next person in the line will take on and share their perspective. So that's how we're going to proceed. So Prince, if you're ready, we can get started.
Yeah, so I'll just take a minute or two to kind of present the
Prince, your voice
context
is
of
very
the.
low. Can you speak up?
Uh, is it better now?
Okay. Try again.
No, again.
Is everybody else able to hear him properly, or is it low for you guys as well?
Very low.
No,
Yeah. It's pretty low.
not
Prince.
very clear.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, now it's better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll take a minute or two to kind of set the context of the meet or debate. So regarding the technological revolution, is it kind of a boon or a problem for the current humanity? Because some people might consider it as a technocracy where AI is there to help us, and uh, new technologies are coming in. We have to adopt in our jobs, and rather than kicking someone out or firing someone, it is just a way to kind of adopt and reskill or upskill them. But we have seen with machines as well that when they came, they kind of assisted us, and we are comparatively living a good standard of life. But on the contrary, the jobs are being threatened. We are seeing layoffs everywhere, Google, etc. as well. And there is a huge amount of paranoia regarding the thing. So industrial revolution also played this kind of role where there was a huge lead of loss of jobs. So technological revolution might also, that is the fear amongst people. And being India, labor centric market where we provide services and things like that, so it is kind of important for people. So yeah, anyone who want to take it ahead can raise their hand. You do that by clicking the reactions and clicking on the raise hand button. So yeah. Yeah, Samarth.
One thing that might come up repeatedly in this discussion, I'm assuming, is that the technological innovation, they themselves are not either a boon or a bane, but it is more like how society incorporates that one in our daily lives, whether it be in the workplace or in the personal space. That is more of an issue, right, rather than the technological innovation in itself.
Yes, Samarth, rightly said.
Okay. So given this one, I would say that technological innovation itself is not a problem, but the way it has been incorporated in our society in the recent past, that has led to lots of problems. I will highlight some of those problems. One of the during the earlier days when the technological innovation was yet to be in the full swing, let's say in the uh, early part of the 20th century, during that time, it was widely assumed among the industrialized nations in particular that due to the introduction of all of these new machineries, many of the time that was taken to complete a given task, no, like producing a new tool or a new machine, for example, a new product in the factory, that was reduced by a lot, the time that was taken. So, given this trajectory, it was assumed in just in the next couple of decades. So, let's say in the later part of the 20th century, from the 1950s onwards, uh, that the average number of hours that a given worker, that an average worker would be expected to work, that would reduce drastically. But that expectation, it never came to pass, and the number of working hours, it has not reduced, but it has stayed the constant, or in fact, it has increased. So this much, heralded, the improvement in the lives of the average person, which was supposed to happen due to all of this free time being available, because uh, the same amount of work is going to be completed in less number of time. That situation, it never came to pass. And so this is one of the big problems that we face now. And from 1950s onwards till now, you can see technology, it has increased at an exponential pace, the technological innovation, but still we are unable to have more leisure time, because that is the demand of our workplace. Just for the companies to stay competitive, to remain financially viable, it is always the case that uh, we got to use these computers. I'm just describing the everyday workplace, the work experience of a typical white collar worker. So we have all of these computers and the softwares, which and the Xerox machines and all of that one, which has greatly reduced the time that is required to complete any task. But even then, we find ourselves working at least 8 hours a day, uh, and that will, uh, that is like a hugely varying number. Like it can be 8 hours a day, it can extend up to 12, or for some people even more than that. Yeah. So all of these promises that were made, that all of the hopes that we are had, it never came to pass, and that is because not due to the technological innovations themselves, but the way that it has been incorporated in our society. It is due to this hyper the workplace. It's not the workplace, it's like the wider economy that is driven by like this hyper competition, where the companies, to remain financially viable, they have to squeeze as much as work out of the employees as possible, and to finish all of the works in a deadline. So that leaves the individual employees, in a perpetually harried state. Yeah, so this is especially a problem now, because I tell you, like doing like 12 hours of work a day is not a problem in itself, but it is a problem when it involves almost no physical activity, and the work is like almost totally mental. You're like constantly solving one or the other problems through your mental faculties for almost like 12 hours a day. So that is the kind of work we do nowadays, whereas where all of the physical work or it is done by the machines. All of the repetitive mental work, it is done by the machines. The repetitive mental work in the sense like many calculations and many drawings that are done by the machines, and you are supposed to do the stuff that is cannot be done by the machines, like evaluate the scenario and take appropriate decisions, which is like very totally mentally draining. And that cannot be, like if you do that like for 12 hours a day and day after day and week after week, it leaves you like in a state of like chronic stress and exhaustion. So due to the incorporations of these machines, like we are at a place so that most of the work that we do is like so mentally demanding, and there are no, it is not broken up by like any physical activity or repetitive work. It used to be in the earlier days that your typical work day, it would involve like a fair bit of physical activity and repetitive mental tasks. But now it is not that, and it is the kind of typical job, the white collar job. It is like very mentally demanding, and that is a problem rather than the large number of hours in itself. And as I said, the larger economic and societal context, that is the problem rather than the technology itself. So I have highlighted, some of the aspects, some of the disadvantages due to the technological innovation, but not the technological innovation per se, but some of the disadvantages, like how the leisure time that was promised to us, it did not come to pass, and how the jobs that we have, it is like it has become like mentally and emotionally draining to us. Yeah, so yeah, I'll stop it at this moment and make any other points later.
Yes, Ahmed. So you really pointed out a great thing, that how this whole thing is incorporated, where we are seeing that the standard of the common people has kind of risen, but the standard of the life of workers have not, where we can just dunzo something in 10 minutes, but the people behind are working like very hard. I guess, Tanmay, you had your hand raised up. Do you want to speak?
I would like to go after some time.
Yeah, sure. So in the meantime, this is like first come first serve basis. So even if someone is speaking, if you think that you can go next, then you can raise your hand, and it's a queue basis, and then we can kind of work around it. Yeah, Rajshri.
Yes, hi. So I am totally agreeing with the fact that technological revolution has caused unemployment. Mm, In the current scenario, we have seen a lot of layoffs, jobs becoming redundant because of tech. There have been so many news articles which have showed that how a consultant, let's say, who was hired in an MBB job, the same job can be done by an AI within a few minutes. So also in some sectors which are research heavy, the entire AI software can do the same thing for the people. The job of 10 people can be done by just an AI software. So of course there will be unemployment. Of course there will be job positions which will be obsolete then. Apart from that, we have seen so many examples where uh, a software like a chat GPT or Gemini can do so precise coding like a coder, like a normal coder. And that is why companies are shaving off employees. They want to cut costs. Like, I mean, who doesn't want to save money, right? When it comes to profit, the most important part of cost is the employee salaries that are being paid off, the employee expenses. So if it can be saved through the technology that they are adapting, the technology that they're integrating in the businesses, I believe that it will cause havocs in the coming years, where technology will definitely replace those jobs which could have been done by humans. Apart from that, the skill gap that the current college graduates and the individuals possess is really terrible. So we have seen a lot of examples where IIT graduates are not getting jobs. I mean, is our education system to blame? Of course, yes. There is a lot of skill gap. As the report of Asar mentioned, that young population, which has recently graduated class 10, can't even read a class 2 text. What are we doing? Which skills are we focusing on, which are not at all suitable in this age and world? We are not preparing our population, especially the Indian population, and the Indian education system is not preparing our population towards that rapidly changing technological revolution. The digital world that we are in requires the digital curriculum that should be so fast paced that it could meet the needs of the job market. And if you are creating such engineers, if you are creating graduates, no matter how top tier the college is, there will always be a skill gap unless and until the employee tries to upskill themselves, reskill themselves, change and adapt according to the rapid pace of the changing world. Third, I believe that the technological revolution is going to cause unemployment in a very serious and surprising way. So currently, a lot of companies have been using this ATS software, which uses AI as a system to parse resumes, right? And the first level screening of any candidate who goes for a job or who goes for, let's say, any kind of interviews, the first level of screening is done by an AI software, which parses your resume and lets the company or the HR know whether this person is suitable for the job or not. What if this resume does not reflect the actual capability of a candidate? That means the qualified and very bright individuals are kept out of the job market because technology is being integrated like at a very fast pace in in the HR market as well. So I think that will also be one of the causes of unemployment. Apart from that, it has been historically proven time and again that whenever mechanization has come, of course, it facilitates our jobs, it makes our lives easier, it provides convenience. But if we look at the business side of it, it provides convenience to the business in terms of cost, in terms of the effort, in terms of the time saved. And because of it, the labor that the firm will hire will obviously reduce if that particular software, for a particular technology can do the work in 1/10 the amount of time, 1/10 the cost, and 1/10 the effort. And also, I understand that there are capital investments that are huge while integrating this technology, but I feel that when the demand of such things will increase in the market, and so will the supply. And I believe that these technological integration will not be such huge capital investments for the companies. And as we have seen historically, that technology has become cheapened, technology has become affordable. And so it will become affordable for the businesses in the coming future as well. So I believe that overall, because of technology, the revolution that we are facing right now is just a tip of the iceberg. There is going to be a lot of unemployment, but at the same time, if our youth can upskill themselves to face those digital revolution, or upskill themselves in some way where they are using that technology to boost themselves, get a job in the market, I believe then only then technology could help in boosting employment. But other than that, I believe that technological revolution is going to eat up a lot of jobs.
Yeah, those are like very pragmatic issues, and these need to be kind of incorporated in the whole technological revolution that we are having, that we need to consolidate things as well. Yeah, Raghav, I think you're next.
Yeah, thanks. I think so far the discussion has been kind of like very centered around our current circumstances. The very it's a very narrow focus we've had. When we talk about these things, technology and employment, we are mostly thinking about our practical surroundings and practical context, right? But I want to like take the discussion to like a much broader context. When you talk about technology, employment, these are not things that just happened last generation or something. It's been around for a long time, right? And if you look at it historically, let's take it back to like like maybe 10,000 years or something. Like when there was no such thing as employment or like massive technological revolution or something like that. People were basically like hunters gatherers. They were surviving on their own. If they fail to survive, they basically they die. I mean, if they fail to work towards like gathering their food, they basically die, right? It's a matter of like, so their employment is for themselves. They're self-employed, and they have like small communities. They work for each other, and any kind of technological improvement drastically improved their survival rate, right? So it started off from there. You can draw the parallels all the way to now. It's just that the stakes are much higher. It was no longer just about survival. It's about like human progress. It's about civilizational progress and things like that. And technology has always been directly proportional. Growth in technology has always been directly proportional to expansion of the horizons as a species for us, right? So I would say that from that perspective, technology is absolutely, has been nothing but good. And in any kind of like harm that has been attributed to technology is basically coming from bad actors who misuse technology and things like that. So from a species level, I think that technology has been wonderful for us. Now coming to the concept of employment, right? Now employment, if you have to understand that employment is essentially a necessity for societal structure to function. You're basically saying that you don't get to enjoy the benefits of society if you do not contribute to society. So employment comes into that picture. So anybody who is able to deliver value to society is going to be rewarded with employment, and they have financial security. They have financial progress, and it expands the horizons of what they can do with their life. So they can travel, they can do all these things, they can eat in nice places, they can buy properties. All these things happen if they're employed, and employment happens if they're able to offer value. So I hope like we're clear on the basics of like why employment exists, and what is the function to society for employment. If you're employed, you get benefited, but the society also benefits from it, in that like it is able to use your efforts. I mean, imagine like there is no employment. How would somebody even run an airline industry or run a flight for you to travel to different places? It won't happen. So society exists through employment, and you get to it's like a symbiotic relationship between an individual and a society, right? Now the way the technology hampers employment is that it sort of like makes you work a lot harder than you need to if it weren't for the technological empowerment. Imagine like let's like take back like 500 years ago, right? Not a lot of technological empowerment. People are still like relying primarily on agriculture, trade, and things like that. So back then, if for you to excel in society, you don't have to have done something extraordinary. Like you don't have to have a profound level of intellectual things. You have, maybe you worked hard, you build relationships, and you progressed, and you were able to deliver value. But we've now reached a point where like you have to be extremely competitive as an individual to deliver proportional amount of value, right? So it just makes it really competitive for human beings to survive and thrive to the same proportion of benefit, if it weren't for the technology. So technology makes a lot of things easier. So now you have to like make yourself exceptional in order to survive in the employment, add value to society as an employee. So I think that's a really, overall it's a net positive, because it makes individuals work harder to distinguish themselves, and also like it eliminates the lower level tasks that you have to do just to survive. So I would say that it's a wonderful thing. It's gonna great produce brilliant human beings who are able to find new ways to deliver value. And I think that's the fundamental thing about human beings, is that we are people who will always find ways to excel. I mean, evolutionarily, like we are the same as what we were 10,000 years ago, but because of the surrounding context, we're able to do much more because of the societal evolution. So I hope like I'm making it clear that we're on a constant progression. It's just that you have to be exceptional in order to survive the same benefits. So I would stop it there.
Yeah, you're right there, Raghav, that we as a species have evolved a lot, and we have faced a lot of challenges like the COVID. Yeah, Karthik, I guess you are next.
Raghav, good points, and I was definitely thinking
Karthik, your
on the
voice
same
is
lines,
cracking.
and few things. So, as Raghav mentioned, that evolution, specific. Yes.
Yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, please tell it.
Okay. Okay. So I was saying, I was thinking along the similar lines as Raghav mentioned that theory of evolution and getting proportional rewards for the efforts and the value that you are at. So to that point, I agree to the points that people have made that as we move into technological evolution and progress technologically, we might end up losing some jobs and jobs like that are easily replaceable. Like if you're not to demean any kind of workspace, but but also like like people working in call centers or very mechanical jobs, very process oriented jobs are likely to be replaced. But with that, it provides a nudge for these people or the younger generation to evolve themselves, adapt themselves to the conditions, and make themselves more competitive, because we are in a very competitive landscape in terms of job, business, everything is much more competitive than it was 10 years ago or in the previous decades.
Can I
So
make sure that
this, as a theory of revolution, it's like best adapted will win through.
yeah, is Karthik's voice breaking just for me or for everyone? Can anyone confirm that? Raghav or
It's
someone?
breaking.
Yeah, Karthik,
Oh.
can you please repeat just the last 2-3 sentences?
Yeah. So I was saying that I agree that technological like evolution will lead to some losses, but job losses. But these will be jobs that are irreplaceable by the technology, and sometime now or later it will be lost, because if we go back further from when we were progressing from agriculture economy to service oriented economy, there were some opinions that we will end up losing some jobs, but eventually people upskilled themselves. We
Karthik, can you like reconnect again? When you join, I'll give you the chance to complete your points. In the meantime, Tanmay, please go ahead.
Sure.
Yes. Would it be fine if I switch on my video?
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. It's totally up to you.
Okay. Can you allow me to switch on my video? Like it's showing us the host and disabled your video.
Yeah, let me see if I can do that. Yeah, Tanmay. Please go
Yes,
ahead.
perfect. Yeah. So good morning, everyone. I would like to start by saying that today technology is so good at taking our jobs that soon in the future it will be unemployed too. So don't you think that jobs have been changing from like go 100 years back, 200 years back, 500 years back, 1,000 years, 10,000 years back? Before there was like no job kind of thing. People used to farm or go into agriculture. They didn't have any desire to like extra comfort or luxury. They would grow for themselves, consume that. Like they had a farm, they had cattle, and that's it. They would just live for the food and not more like luxurious kind of thing. They had a simple hut kind of, and grew on agriculture, and they had cattle. So it was all consumption, and they didn't produce for someone else. So from there, the started like if they need to grow more, they employed laborers, and from there the journey starts of the job employment. And at this rate of killing jobs, even the robots need to protect their jobs from newer robots. So taking examples, recent examples like some 20 years back, 25 years back, in the food FMCG market, we can see that they were all retailers like Kirana store, grocery stores we had. There were a lot of retailers which used to whose market were local people. So for a particular area or a street, there was a shop. But today, if we see, there are e-commerce chains. So Amazon, Flipkart, Zepto, Blinkit, we all order from them. So this is how like they are killing the jobs. So the shopkeepers don't have much sales or much growth now. So they are forced to do a job, or they are forced to do something else. So this is how this same thing happens in many other, like you take medicine, and people, as someone mentioned before, that people are now more forced to be competitive. They are forced to be more productive and more better than others. So it has become very competitive today. And don't you think that the same thing in future can happen with your own job? So your job may not be the same job even after 5 years or 10 years. It will change. It will definitely change. So concluding that job is definitely impacting the technological growth is definitely impacting our employment, and people are forced to like get more skilled before they need not like study so much or need not have so much education. But today it's a necessity and need for everyone to at least get graduated and then search for job. And there also they have a lot of competition. And also not only impact the technological growth is not only impacting employment, it is impacting in other ways also. As we see that if a technological shift comes, people at that certain time become unemployment, and they search for other ways of income, where they might also get distracted with bad ways of getting income, like let's say gambling, or let's say theft. So they go on, they get distracted on other ways. So when that shift comes, it's a very crucial time for individuals to decide what next job to be chosen. So that is a crucial time where they get distracted, and also some other evil people get that opportunity to make like the online gambling apps, or you can say example 823 rummy and all. So the youth especially gets distracted at that point of time where they are unemployed. So this is a major drawback where technological development happens and the youth gets distracted on how to get their lifestyle or how to get that money. So I'll wind it up there. Thank you so much.
Yeah, really great points, Tanmay. Before we move ahead, Karthik, I'll let you finish up your points. Karthik?
Yeah, is my voice clear now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah, my like I pretty much covered it, and I'm not sure how much was I audible, but my ultimate point was that as we progress, evolution comes with a certain resistance, and even if we compare it to when India was an agricultural economy, it contributed 60% to the GDP, and then we were moving to services sector. There were a lot of apprehension about being an open economy, and should it be good for our country, and there were some patriotic elements to it as well. So that was also evolution which led to the technological progress, like when there was the dot-com bubble. So that was also one part of it. There will be people migrating from one sector of jobs to another sector of jobs, and whatever is, and that is what the theory of evolution is. Only the best adapted will win through. And given the circumstances now with the upcoming of artificial intelligence and machine learning, people with jobs that are very mechanical and very process oriented are likely to be replaced. But that will be a nudge for them to upskill themselves. And given the job market being so competitive and the population density of our country being so high, it is a very competitive landscape in every aspect. So it will only lead to a better skill upgradation of the youth and skill development of the youth, and we'll have the young the the people with the young population. We'll have that to leverage, and that leverage will have against the other developing economies.
Yeah, thank you, Karthik, for those enriching points. I guess Biplab, you are next, so please go ahead.
Hello, good morning all. So hope I'm audible, right? Clearly
Yes,
audible?
yes,
Okay.
Biplab.
Okay. Yeah, so I have been hearing the discussion and quite enriching discussion. So I want to start off with the kind of points which were made by Raghav. So we need to see from where this employment concept actually stemmed, right? So from where this started at a societal level, right? So I think prior to the 19th century, so prior to the Ford car revolution, so Henry Ford started the GM Motors. So the entire society could be mainly looked upon as a society of entrepreneurs, right? Micro entrepreneurs, they were doing their own stuff, they were selling, bartering, whatever. But that was the major kind of the context, or the society was made up like that, right? So then came the Industrial Revolution, and that is when the concept of employment got generated, and that is where we look at this modern day employment from that perspective. So one very important aspect that we have to think about is, in the context of our entire history, it is not very um, it's not very long that we are in the employment era. So it is relatively a new concept which has, so these kind of challenges that we are looking at right now is kind of like one in a time challenges. Because I'll come to the point why I say this, because every challenge, industrial revolution was a different kind of a challenge. The blue collar workers challenge, which even Tanmay mentioned, that the businesses, the shopkeepers, and everybody had to adjust to the e-commerce platforms, and so that's a different kind of a challenge. Um Now with this AI revolution, it is a completely different kind of a challenge, and I would specify why I say that. Yeah. So um, in the past, right, whenever a technology revolution had happened, it happened at a much slower pace and much smaller scale. So even when we take computers, which came into our lives, so India was kind of like late, I would say, to adopt to that, but we found an advantage, and it was a slow progression. So since the 80s it was introduced, 90s is when it gained kind of a traction, and then 2000s is when we started educating our youth, and we took the advantage of that technology revolution, and we were able to make good value out of it. And that is why our societies, specifically the Silicon Valleys around Bangalore and Hyderabad, such cities grew enormously, right? So it was a slow paced thing. But now what we are looking at is a very high pace and very, very kind of high adoption rate of technology evolution or technological change, which is happening. And that is why such kind of losses are that we are seeing. And just to couple it with the kind of economic structure that our society has got into, we are a highly capitalist economy now. So everything is about how much is the bank balance, how much is the money that we are holding. That defines our stature, that defines what we can do, where we can go, and what is our quality of life. So that is very important from the societal point of view, right? Earlier, prior to this, India was kind of more, I would say, uh, a kind of a socialist economy, not a particularly capitalist economy, but now it has turned into a very, very, very capitalist economy. So these are the challenges. And another important point to remember or kind of focus is that with computers, there was a challenge, but we had a very good way of overcoming the challenge is getting trained on computers. And it also generates equivalent kind of employment that, okay, a person who's doing it on pen and paper, it gets replaced with a computer. Yes, the productivity increases, but it can be mapped to a one-to-one kind of a job scenario. But not the same is not true in this technology revolution in terms of AI, right? So AI is some technological revolution which can replace jobs, which can take away the daily things that average white collar employee does. It can very well be done through AI, and I am very sure that whoever is not jumping on into this AI revolution, they will lose out big time, right? So most of the companies would have to adopt to this and would have to, most of the countries, in fact, would have to adopt to this because otherwise they'll be left behind, right? So there's no one way of deciding that, okay, I don't jump in onto this bandwagon, right? So these are the points, and the employment impact on society is very, very clear also from the national elections that we had recently, right? So when BJP was kind of like, or the NDA was trying to focus, but then the sentiment that we found was that the kind of unemployment that got generated, that kind of was impacting the youth, and that is somewhat influenced in or in the results that we can see that there is an impact there. So it is going to be a challenging times. It is going to be a different or difficult kind of adoption that needs to happen. And the most important thing is that the pace of adoption needs to be very high. So it is kind of one of a challenge which is in front of us where we need to do as employed people. My thought is only thing is that as Tanmay also mentioned very rightly that the businesses were facing this since quite some time with the advent of e-commerce giants, right? So it makes sense to diversify. So I have a strong belief that we would also, as employed people, diversify into multiple things, that we don't just focus on one employment with one company as a focus, and we get diversified into multiple gigs, freelancing, whatever suits. So that is kind of going to be the future, is what I'm looking at, yeah, or what I foresee. Thank you.
Are you done?
Yes, I am done.
So thank you for bringing out the multifaceted issues. Although some might argue that the unemployment is at the lowest level ever, according to Gini Index, our level of inequality is getting less day by day. But I'll let other people take that up. Raghav, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So, several points were raised. I have a few points here. So, I think one of the things that I think Tanmay brought up was the fact that 500 years ago or something, people would people were just didn't have dreams or desires, and they were just like happy with having their own cows, their farms, and feeding themselves and living. I mean, relatively from today's point of view, you might think that is a simple life with no ambition, no desire, nothing. But you have to understand that the frame of mind at that time was there was so many diseases, People could die anytime. People could survival was the pinnacle, right? Survival was the pinnacle. And if you're able to have your own cows, your own farms, and there is no famine, there is nothing destroying, threatening the safety of your family and your progenies, flourishing. That is the ultimate privilege. So you have to understand the relative nature of human desire, right? So like I said, 10,000 years ago, the very fact that you can survive and see your children, that was a huge achievement. Like how many people that you knew had grandchildren? They were not, life expectancy was so low that just living through to see your grandchildren was like a pinnacle, right? And so we because of technology, we've arrived at a point where these things are normalized. So our ambitions are are pushed up. So the relative, we're still the same human beings, we're still the same human beings, but our relative ambitions and our aspirations are much, much higher. In retrospect, everything else looks really small, but we are fundamentally the same throughout the history, right? And what I find to be something that people are not focusing on is that the whole purpose of all these mechanisms that we have is towards human flourishing ultimately, right? And for example, I think somebody else was giving the example of IIT graduates being unemployed because they're not prepared. I think that is a wonderful thing to find that IIT graduates are unemployed, because now it is basically technological progression has exposed the inefficacy of the whole process, where previously they were all given some kind of security regardless of whether they were actually good at initiative and coming up with things or not. But now you're finding out that all these IIT graduates are completely clueless as to what to do with themselves, right? And it is a good thing that is exposed. So I think the technological revolution is going to make us rebuild and fundamentally reconfigure the whole infrastructure so that we improve ourselves as a civilization, and we have our aspirations shot up even further. I think one of the other points that was brought up was the pace, right? I think I agree with that. The pace of technological revolution right now is a fundamental distinguishing factor between what was the case back 10,000 years ago, or 500 years ago, or even 100 years ago. Because now we've reached a pace where you don't have to wait for a couple of generations to see the benefits. You're actually seeing the drastic shift in a span of decades, or even less than that. And obviously that is going to be existentially a threat, because it kind of destabilizes things. So what is beneficial when you spread it across 5 decades? If you bring about the same amount of change in 5 years, it is going to be destabilizing. It is going to be disorienting for majority of the people, and that is the threat. But I would say that even there, I think there is a you can look at it as a existential threat, but you can also look at it as a kind of a boost that is revolutionary for the species itself. Because think about it, guys. Think about somebody signing up to be a CA, or an accountant or something. It's maybe a mundane task, but somebody's doing their entire life doing that kind of a job. That is, I mean, I this is my subjective opinion, but I think it's mundane. And if you can replace that, they can go on and aspire for something more meaningful in their life, right? And I think that is the kind of revolution that's going to happen in the next generation, that people are going to have the privilege of seeking extraordinary things to do as a human being just to survive. And I think it's going to lead to exciting times. I would say that it's a bad time for people who are fundamentally reliant on security. I think if you have a security mindset, you're going to be obsolete. That is the one thing I would say. And if you don't have a security mindset, you're a free-spirited human being. I think you are you should have a really optimistic view of technology, and you will find some way to provide value to society, so that you'll be useful and you'll be rewarded for that. So I'll stop it there. Thanks.
Yeah. So I guess almost everyone had a round or two to speak. So moving forward, can we limit the time per participant to about 5 minutes? And rightly pointed out by Raghav, yes, it will lead to some free soul humans in the future, and free will in the right sense, not free will of choosing medical or engineering. Yeah, Rajshri.
So I agree with a lot of points that have been said right now, and most of them are leading towards the point that technological revolution is actually killing jobs, and we need to upskill ourselves. I also would like to add a point about digital divide that is going on in our country right now. There is a lot of population, even young population, which is, I mean, being exposed to the technology, but still that like digital penetration in remote villages and even in tier 4 or tier 5 or tier 6 cities is really less right now. So if we are talking about technological revolution taking up like employment opportunities, I believe that this will be even harder for people who don't have the technological exposure at their uh, dispense dispense, right? And that will become even tougher for these people to find jobs as and when technology, even if you upgrade yourselves. Now, when we were talking about upgrading ourselves, upskilling ourselves, reskilling ourselves, it is a privilege, it is a kind of a boon for urban societies, even up till tier 3 as well, I would say. But for those unfortunate ones, for those who are actually looking forward to get a job, and if they have never been exposed to such technology, if they do not have that kind of exposure, they are in such danger because of this technological evolution. And apart from that, um, right. And one more point was there, that we need to upskill so that we can get the kind of jobs that we want. But how many jobs will you get? Like, for example, if there is a person who has upskilled themselves to like learn AI, right? And how can we do AI? How do we use AI? That person will be employed by a company in a very limited capacity. I mean, the capacity, for example, if there are 100 people that are wanted by a company to be hired and to make AI integrated in their business, there will be only a limited number of openings. What will the other people do if they are, let's say, upskilling themselves and still the job market is not very favorable for them? Still, there is a lot of gap. Still, yes, I agree to what Raghav has said. There is a lot of figuring out to be done as well right now. But I believe that we are in this era where technology, again, as Raghav said, that we don't take time to figure out how how the technological evolution is going to come. Like AI has been integrated so much in different capacities, like supply chain, consulting, banking, etc. People are just trying to figure and like whether what should I actually upskill myself in. There's also a big question, like what am I trying to upskill myself for? So I think these three aspects are something to be pondered upon. And yeah, I'm done. Over to you, Prince.
Yeah, so the point that kind of was very important in the present context, that yes, we are talking about upskilling, but the digital divide is real. So I like some speakers to speak about that as well. Yes, Samarth.
Right. Uh, you know, I think some of us are under the assumption that any of the jobs that are going to be uh, lost due to the advent of AI, it will always be replaced due to the creation of other jobs. I would like to disagree with this one. Maybe this is not a novel point, but I'd like to, focus on this one. Like when people argue that new jobs will be created, and in the on the whole, there won't be like the unemployment. It won't increase. I think they are always looking to the technological innovations in the past as a precedent. So, for example, like before the industrial revolution, like we have all of these farmers working on their land doing manual labor, and after the industrial revolution, like let's say we have tractors, which can do the same job. And although, you know, uh, you know, the jobs that were being done due to the manual labor, those were lost. All of these other new jobs were created, right? You could drive a tractor, you could manufacture all of these machine parts related to the tractor, and then using all of this machinery like the agricultural production, it's going to increase. That will in turn lead to the explosion in the population, and that in turn will lead to more consumer demand, which will lead to more jobs. So that is what we had witnessed in the past. All of these technological revolutions, they had taken away jobs, but then there was the disruption. But uh, in the span of, let's say, a couple of decades, like all of the lost jobs, it was basically reintroduced, and on the net there was no job loss, but and there was a higher standard of living that was made possible. But again, the technological revolution that we see right now, it is in some ways similar to the past technological revolutions, but in other ways, it is different. The pace of the technological revolution. So that was the topic. That was the point, like that was mentioned a couple of times before. So that is the distinguishing factor, and due to that one, we might very well reach a point that just to use the same example of the tractors and them using on being used in agricultural lands, ultimately, like we might reach a point where all of the agricultural work is done by various kinds of machinery that is powered by some kind of AI and ML, and all of the jobs that might be created, all of the jobs that are there will be so many jobs lost, and the only kind of jobs that might be created or like basically like creating or maintaining these machineries that are powered by AI. So you can see here that unlike in the past centuries, here there is in this instance there is actually a net loss of the jobs. We might in the coming decades reach a point where there is actually a net loss of jobs, and which will create mass unemployment, and that is the reason the prospect of this happening. That is the reason that there is recently all of this talk about universal basic income. That is because we are expecting a society like where a substantial minority, if not the majority of the population, is going to be like chronically unemployed, and so we might reach such a state. So this is the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, thanks, Samarth. Raghav, you're next.
Yeah, I want to make it quick. So a couple of things were made about the technological divide, right? So we were talking about like how the tier 6, whatever tier 5 cities, where their people are not so technologically advanced that they can compete with the people in the tier 1, tier 2 cities. And I think there is a fundamental assumption being made there that technology is the only dimension in which human beings can compete. Right? Like, if that was the case, obviously it'll be unfair to all those other people. But I think in a lot of ways, I think technological evolution has actually made those people a part of the whole ecosystem. That where they can be part of the global marketplace, or like expanded societal scope. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And if not for that, right, you would not find people in tier, like whatever tier 6, tier whatever X cities, rising up to a certain level of fame, it would be impossible in a maybe like couple of generations ago or something. Imagine, like, for example, these Instagram influencers or people, um, these people would not be making all those millions of dollars, or like, going up the social ladder, if not for the technological advancements. So as I've been saying, I think it's gonna, like, the technological revolution gonna, like, expand the scope of like what human aspirations can mean. What would previously, like maybe like a generation ago, those people in those villages would only ever be, subject to some kind of like a slavery, because like they are disadvantaged. For them to move up, they have to have, there is literally no scope, to be honest. Like, there was no scope, because like they were born into poverty, and what they would have been able to achieve in a generation would only be seen, the benefits of it will be seen by their next generation. They would not be able to see in their own lifetime. But that is not the case today. Today, like, everything is opened up. And I think what it's fundamentally threatening is this is the status quo of all those people who start at a better starting point. So those are the people who should be very afraid of this, because like now their security is threatened by the other things that are opening up. I think a lot of people who are hungry for opportunity, they will thrive in a much better way than people who depend on a security mindset. I think human beings are fundamentally innovative. Like, we will come up with new ways to excel, and new ways to, like, keep progressing. I think it's not going to change so much in terms of the overall net positive. I think what it's going to do is like to force people to think in a fundamentally revolutionary new way. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And I think there is going to be some amount of brutality in this whole process because of the pace. Because of the, for example, right? If you look at the societal reality right now, I mean, I've been talking about it from the abstract point of view, but looking at the ground level societal reality, right? Imagine if like hundreds of thousands of people are young, able-bodied, and they're intelligent, and they're not getting any opportunities in the job market, and they don't have the capital to invest and do some things. It is going to frustrate them to a massive degree, and they are going to be, distraught. They are going to be, distressed to a certain extent, where they will start to create some chaos. They will start to, like, riot, or they will start to like this, stand up against the government. They will start to, they will create problems in society, right? Because like they are suffering, and they don't want to be quiet about it, so they will transfer the suffering to the rest of the people. And that is definitely going to be there. Any kind of like change that happens at a rapid pace, it is going to result in that kind of like instability. And that's just a fact, like. And one thing that I want to address is that, like, we are having this debate as if it is possible for us to do anything about technological revolution. There is no way for us to guarantee that we minimize the pace of this. Anybody, imagine, like, if all of the countries, all of the companies come to a pact that we will throttle the pace of technological revolution to a certain extent, so that we don't yield to these kind of instabilities. There will be an incentive for anybody who breaks away from the fact, and they will benefit inordinately. So it is not going to work. Nobody's going to be able to stop everybody at the same time. Somebody is gonna break away from the fact and benefit inordinately, and only the people who have agreed to the fact will be suffering the consequences of not catching up. Imagine, like, for example, a country like China. You're never going to be able to convince them to, like, follow international treaty that disadvantages them. They will, even if they formally agree to it, they will, behind the screens, they will do something. And that's not to say the same that the same is not going to happen in the US or at Google or something like that. They will have covert programs that will like from invest in these technologies to keep promoting things. These things will, you can never control the pace of technology. It's just a matter of like competitive survival. We will try to innovate and be better. So it's not like there is a point to this debate, as in, like, we can actually stop it. So the only option we have is to adapt and survive. So I'll stop it there.
Yeah, rightly pointed out, because the example I always give on these topics are the example of Saurav Joshi, where he has gone from nothing to the epical height of wealth in just one generation, and that came through the technological advancements itself. And I guess that's the issue with Indian society, that we only consider the white collar jobs as jobs and not these influencers. Yeah, Biplav, you are next.
Yes, so I want to make it a quick one. So I agree to whatever the points that were made by Raghav just prior to this. So I brought about this concept of pace, right? So pace of technology evolution or revolution. So this is going to determine, and another important factor that I want to focus on is that globally it is going to be impacting different regions, different kind of societies in different ways. This whatever we are going through, because if you are aware of kind of the US society, for example, or even the advanced societies, there they are already like they are not too focused on manual labor, right? So everything is automated to the kind of already the maximum, so that the parking lots don't have a guard sitting or manned parking lots, right? So it's already there. So they are already at a level where their economy is getting the maximum revenue out of the tertiary services. By tertiary services is the value added and kind of the advisory services that their economies are focusing on already, right? So these kind of advancements would have a different impact for them, whereas we have to focus on our economy or specifically on India. It is kind of like a more manual labor based. Even white collar jobs, for that matter, was much more labor intensive thing that used to happen, right? So the coding was mainly done here. It was a kind of a back office for the entire world that we were looking at. So we have to move at a much greater pace in order to cater to or already be able to advance to this kind of or adapt to this kind of a situation. So it's going to be a different kind of a race for each of the regions that plays out. So it's very important to note that, as well as I agree to the point that Raghav mentioned that there can never be a pact, because game theory, for that matter, it can always go wrong. Where if people get into a pact, then there would be some incentive always to break away from that, and people would always want to be at a position where Tesla would always focus on futuristic things, no matter what, right? So that is their value proposition. That is their USP. So we can't stop that. So these were the points. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Biplav, for the amazing points. Hariharan, you are next.
Okay. First of all, good afternoon to all. Like, my point would be like, uh, people, people always think that always there is a technological advancement in each phases. Like there are industrial revolution. The current revolution is like called as 4.0, like the AI revolution. So every time people see a revolution, they will be afraid of like whether I'm going to get unemployed or fired by my employer, and if there is something else like going to happen, like I'm going as my skills not fit for the current situation, so I have to either update or I will be unemployed. That is the situation in each phase. Take for example in like in 1800s there are horse carts like bullock carts, like horse carts, like there were many things. Once they saw something called as a car, uh, people people always like felt okay, this is going to soon replace us. Whoever this cart, like there will be like smiths and people were making those kind of things like uh, steel parts. The people who makes actual cards during that time, they felt like okay, this soon will be going to replace the horse cart, so I have to either switch to something else, I have to build something like furthermore, or this industry soon going to disappear. So in that case, like in those kind of situations, people those who are adapted to those kind of revolutions survived, and people most of the cases were most of the cases were like unable to survive those kind of situations, and they have like disappeared in those competitions as well. So in my opinion, people uh, neither need to afraid or not to be careless. So they have to look for they have to sorry for that. Yeah. People have to be so keen and look forward what kind of things currently happening, and how can we like handle those kind of situations so that we can come up through this. For example, um, these AI advancements and these kind of new advancements in technologies, people always have more desire than what actually they provide the value. That is one I see in this current scenario. Like, people want to work less and they need more money for their desire. So for those kind of sorry for that. For those kind of senses, you have to be more narrow down, and whoever provides the value to the society um, can come up survive. Take for a, I can give another example, like see, like Bill Gates, who worked in his 80s and 90s work, but still he's one of the richest person in the world. He's not going to work, or he's now developing something so keenly. He developed something like 20 to 30 years back, but still he's rewarded by that. So these kind of things we have to take into consideration. If you are a commuter, like day-to-day employee or something like that, you can you have to, like, in such kind of industrial revolution, how to adapt. There is no other ways to, like, uh the jobs will be, seems like it will reducing, the jobs might seems reduced, but some other technology, like, these are all the things to speed up the current working world. Okay, there there might come new products, new services, new kind of environments, and still there are more things to be, like, uh need to be found out, and you can there are more room to, like, make things better. So that's what I see in this current world, and the people can actually think, and they can move forward. So yeah, that's what my point is all about.
Yeah, thanks, Hariharan. Samarth, you are next.
I had made one point earlier about how in in some case the kind of technological innovation that is happening right now, it does not have a precedence in the past, and all of the old ways of thinking, like all of the old ways of doing, that it won't be applicable right now. Let's think for a minute about how the warfare, humans conducting war and killing each other, that was considered, it was considered as like as part of the human nature, and humans conducting war and killing each other, it is nothing out of the ordinary, and it has always been there, and it is always gonna be there. So that was the thinking for the longest time, and that was the reality of human beings for the longest time. So in the in the prehistoric period, they had the primitive weapons, and they fought with that one, and moving to the ancient and the medieval periods, they had more advanced, like, let's say, swords and armor. They used to do battle with that one. And coming to more recent times, during World War I and World War II, the kind of slaughter that was seen then, due to this mass production of weapons, like where a machine gun, it can take out like a couple hundred soldiers within a minute. So that was witnessed during the world wars. And then people were beginning to question, like, when there is this mass production of, like, weapons that would kill people on an industrial scale, and then there was the mass mobilization of people, like whole of the country devoted towards the conduct of war. Now people seriously began to question, like, the kind of assumptions that they had, the kind of the behavior that they indulged in, right? So that was due to the technological revolution. And then further, like things really came to head when nuclear weapons were introduced. Now people seriously began to question like the behavior that we were indulging in all of these thousands of years of human history. Can we actually do that one, continue to do that one without like just wiping out the entire species, our entire species from the universe? So that is one prime example of how, you know, the introduction of some technology, it compelled us to think in different ways and forced us to, you know, change our behavior, at least to some extent. So I think that is possibly the kind of technological revolution we are in right now, and it is not like the revolutions of before. I feel the technological revolutions of before, where during the industrial revolutions we had all of these job losses. It was disruptive for some time, but then there was all of this new kind of jobs created due to so many other avenues being opened. Now, if you take all of this, the introduction of the AI and ML and its development to the fullest extent, its implementation to the fullest extent, what kind of employment picture do you figure that we will eventually land in the next 50 or the 100 years? How many people in a nation that has like crores of people can you reasonably expect to become the developers of the AI or ML, or somehow like directly or indirectly, peripherally, however they are linked to AI? How many people can realistically be attached to this enterprise? You know, that won't happen. Like there will be a substantial minority, if not like a majority of the people who will be chronically employed because simply there is no way for them to productively participate in the economy. And that and the anticipation of that outcome is the talk we have nowadays of the introduction of universal basic income, so that in the eventuality of such an thing occurring, like when there is like mass chronic unemployment for the majority of the people, they would still have some financial, safety net for them to lead like a reasonably good life. So so that is the point that I was trying to make, but I think it just went over the heads of other people. Anyway, like so that is the major concern that I wanted to bring. And even let's say in the best case scenario that when this AI like is fully developed and implemented, and we are living in a society of mass unemployment, and where the universal basic income is established. That is the best case scenario. The worst case scenario will be like where majority of people won't have any safety net, and you can imagine all sorts of bad things happening over there when majority of the people, they're unemployed and roaming around the streets with nothing good to do. So that is obviously the worst case. But even in the best case scenario, where majority of the people are supported by this universal basic income, even in that case, that would be like a tremendous step down from the kind of society that we are now living in, where most people can create something of value to society because of their employment. There is just the feeling of fulfillment that that a person will get from just being able to contribute in some little way to the economy. But in the future, even though the majority of the people, they might be like financially secure due to all of these welfare payments and universal basic income, just the fact that they're not able to contribute anything of value to society, that in itself will drive people nuts and will lead to them being dysfunctional and disruptive members of society. So that is the point I wanted to make.
Thank you, Samit. And rightly pointed out that meritocracy would lead to the incentivization of humans to kind of build upon themselves and build up their skills so that the whole of humanity could kind of benefit from that. Anyone would like to take that ad? So basically, of course, the technology, whenever it comes, it comes with a lot of pros and cons. We have seen it with almost all the technologies, but we have to kind of assess the pros and cons and look to the weightage of both as to what is more beneficial to humanity and what negativities it could cause. So I guess based on that, we can kind of assess the current situation.
One question I have, what do the participants here believe that eventually in the next 50 to 100 years, due to the introduction of AI technology, there will emerge an employment scenario where majority of the people will be chronically unemployed or not? No, that's like a straight question. What is the opinion of people around here?
I think, I to be honest, like I'm not sure. Like I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of like massive amounts of unemployment. It is definitely going to destabilize certain things. But I think even amongst them, right? I think people who are resourceful, people who believe that complaining and all these things is not going to work, and they'll let's say they find a way. I think some of them will definitely turn to crime because like they feel like their indignation is justified and they want to like take it out on the others who are seemingly better off than them. You're already seeing this in the US, like if you see, right, California and all these places, right, like you will see it's impossible to go a day without like massive amounts of crime being committed. There are people like who basically, like, it is impossible to actually take your car around and not have your car jacked, or you being forced to give away your wallet and all these things at gunpoint. There are stores shutting down. US is really in a state of crisis right now, and I think, and it's a combination of their immigration policy and also the fact that a lot of people are unemployed, and US is an especially brutal place for people who are unemployed. At least in India, right? I think there is some safety net. You get like certain ration and all these things, like at least like you get. I think even if you have like only like few rupees or something, you can at least manage to feed yourself. But US is not like that. It's a brutal place for poor people. Poverty is a huge. It can be fatal to be poor in a country like the US. And I think I would say that the US is a good indicator of where we would be heading if things keep going in the direction that we're going in, and it's something that we should learn from and try to prepare for. I think that there has to be some kind of a safety mechanism. I don't think that universal basic income is going to be sustainable. It is like a this kind of like an idealized uh, you know like 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 promising heaven to spread religion kind of a thing, like you cannot sustain universal basic income. It's just impossible. It's behind the screens everybody is going to be thinking, okay, what the hell are we doing, like feeding these people to survive when they are not doing anything to add value back. You cannot simply have a loop that where there's a hole. A loop is only a loop if it is fully closed. So there is no like nothing coming back from the investment that society is investing in the people. So if that is the case, then there is not going to be it's not going to be sustainable, and eventually people are going to throw them under the bus and then move on, and then it's going to result in the same situation where you have chaos. You have people who are going to be disruptive. That is the only thing that they will be able to do. But there will be a section of people who are also resourceful, and they will try to innovate, and they're not built for disruption. They're not built for crime, right? So these are people who will go and build businesses. They will try to be self-employed. They will try to maybe like you will have like maybe communities within societies that that sort of like try to be interdependent. And I don't know if you guys know this, but like there is like a huge society in the US called the Amish. These are people who are fundamentally they just like deny technology. And I've actually visited these places. What they'll do is like they won't even allow for a gas cylinder to be in their house because it's a form of technology. So they'll have like natural sources of natural gas coming in from a pipe from outside the house, and they will use that for cooking. And they don't have any lights. They will only use candles. So they are, to be honest, like when I went there and when I saw all this in first person, like I just felt like these guys were like living like a very intelligent way of living. Everything they do is communal based. If one person's house falls down, right, everybody in the community will start coming together and build it up. There is no like they will not say like oh, you have what will you give me if I do that. So I think there will be like pockets of civilization that sort of like mimics this format, like where they're kind of like they are more open to embracing each other and supporting each other. This whole concept of employment will sort of like seem like a foolish thing. It's basically like people are begging on the streets for a collar on the like a leash. Somebody leash me. That's basically what you're saying when you're saying I want employment, right? It's a form of like civilized slavery, right? So you're basically keeping benefits at a ransom, and then you're saying that you will only get these benefits if you follow these things and do what I tell you. This is not something to aspire for as a human being. And I think it is going to liberate a lot of people. Initially there will be like a short period of like crime infestation and instabilities, but I think eventually people will either figure out a way to adapt to this new social order, or try to have like new pockets of civilization that operate on different rules. That's my thought on this.
Yeah, so just to add to that, till 12:30 we do have that system of queuing up and then you can talk, but post 12:30 it's an open discussion and people can discuss as and when. And rightly pointed out, Raghav, I read a quote around it that a mice dies in a mouse trap because it does not understand why the cheese is free. And that's the case with socialism. Yeah, Krishna, I guess you were speaking.
Yeah, hi. I just joined in. So is it okay if I can add a couple of points there?
Yeah, it's an open discussion. You can,
Awesome. Yeah.
add it.
So for me, guys, I think if an alternative view, right? If we look at it, 15, 20 years ago, the so-called employment that we are referring to, which is primarily IT jobs, right, did not exist. The other hard sciences, lawyers, doctors, physicists, scientists, everyone, that field was blooming and it still is the same. And the disruption that is caused is actually not a disruption there, it's an acceleration for other fields. The disruption is only for IT field. So for me, it looks like this IT job bubble, whichever we are in right now, will at some point eventually cool down, and you will basically start focusing more on hard sciences. And that's a good thing for the society as well. So for me, it looks that way. Because like Raghav was mentioning, right, IT jobs are not meant to be something that actually someone can be passionate about, or someone built it. There are segments to it, don't get me wrong, but still the point is there's a lot of knowledge work that is essentially part of this entire digital labor, and that would be automated, which is also a good thing, I would say. So there's a lot of focus getting back into hard sciences, according to me. That would be a better future.
No, I wasn't talking about IT when I said it's a mundane thing. I was talking about accounting. I personally, I mean,
Okay.
I'm in the IT industry, and I actually find it to be an excellent,
Yeah,
creative field.
likewise. Yeah.
because it's fundamentally it's a creative field, right? Like you're using technology to build and create new things, and I think that will those kind of things will thrive. And I think even with the AI revolution, right? I think even though you have like coding stuff, like now it's going to basically eliminate the chaff of like the huge section of the IT workforce that is like more or less like mundane. Like they're not people who are creative. There are a
Yeah.
lot of people, especially in India. The quality of IT professionals is like it's actually pretty basic. These are people who wouldn't know what to do if you gave them the freedom to do anything. They're basically people who are on a leash, just doing whatever they're told, and they would definitely fall out of the wagon. But people who have a certain high level understanding that using the tools to build something, create something, innovate, they will find that they are more empowered now. I mean, if for example,
Yeah.
right, like
Definitely.
I'm also like building some products, and the things that AI has made it possible, right? It's actually empowering in a way. Even though
Yeah.
you're an IT professional, it's empowering if you're able to operate at a high level. But if you're like
Exactly.
basically like doing things like debugging and like doing the mundane aspects, you should feel threatened. And
Yeah.
in my perspective, I think it's not even a threat. It's actually somebody's coming and cutting off the leash on your neck. So now you're basically free to roam and do whatever. Just that the people who are incapable of coming up with their own original way of thinking and creating, building things, they will definitely suffer, and as they should, I think. I mean, I take a more brutal approach to like what human beings like should find value in. I think they should definitely find value in ways of living that not only and benefit the society, but also like give themselves a heightened value of life. Like their own quality of life depends on how fulfilling and uh, how like non-mechanical their daily thing is. Like nobody enjoyed spending like hours and hours in the sun, like plowing their fields. So when you had a machine doing all that for you, definitely you should appreciate it. It's the same thing. The same concept applies. You should not be in a situation where you are appreciating the security of your job because you're doing mundane things day and night, because there is no other alternative. I think you should take it as a cue that you should definitely go and pursue something that finds you more fulfillment, um, and still you're able to thrive. Because like as a human being, right, like we have to like put in some effort to personal growth and evolution, so that like we understand the larger context in which we are, and that kind of growth will not happen if they're not being forced into situations where they cannot settle down, right? I think
Yeah.
that's
But
my positive.
the point there is, I mean, obviously progress in the right direction. But again, right or wrong, it's a progress, right? But the point is, if you hit the brake and you come to a slow halt, that's okay. But if you come from 80 to 0 all of a sudden, that's called an accident, right? And a lot of injuries are going to happen. So that's what we need to slow down, right? We need to make sure there's a time period for people to adopt, people for people to transition into something better, rather than cut off the way that, see, the because if you are aware of it, we're already on a tight chokehold right now because there's a lot of change. And I myself lead Gen AI for entire South Asia for a company. But what I see is it's causing a lot of pressure, because I'll tell you my personal scenario. At the beginning of this particular role, we started hiring. We hired 200 odd people, and guess where those 200 people came from? These are the best people from every team that were jumping onto this bandwagon. The worst part is everything else started suffering except this particular scenario, right? So that immediate shift is something that I am not very favorable of, because irrespective of the agility that we talk or the ability to pick up new things that we talk, the end result remains the same. Is it good? Is it just for everyone, or is it right and working just for us, right? So that's the point I'd like to add there.
Yeah, just to add to what Krishna said, unlike Raghav and you, Krishna, you both would agree that a majority of the IT professionals in India, because a lot of work we do in India is just outsourcing service-based products. So it's just a lot of same debugging stuff and the mundane task, as Raghav puts it. And we do need to take it into consideration that how we, as a society, we have evolved that when the happiness index comes out, even though happiness is not a quantitative index, and we should take it with a pinch of salt, that India is behind a war-torn Ukraine and a war-torn and possibly, arguably, a country that is being ruled by terrorists, Palestine. So I guess we need to take a look into that as well. That how mundane task kind of throws you into unhappiness and mental issues. So I guess these things are truly liberating for these people as they can go and find out what they truly love to do.
Right. So my point there, Prince, is think of it like this. Not everyone is built for everything, right? For example, we can say it's mundane because probably we want something better or more. And for most of the people, that gives a purpose. That is their way of life. That gives them the routine that they need. And without it, think of it like this: you want to start a company, but what do you do, right? For example, even till now, not all of us have a very particular passion in life. That is because, is it because that we are not adventurous enough or we are not skilled enough? No, it's just because that we haven't found the right thing to do, and that would take some time, and that takes a lot more toll on the psyche. If you look at even the history, right, artists and scientists were the more tortured generation, or the gang of people. The soldiers were fine because they have their routine. That's what I'm also trying to bring up here. The people that we think are in mundane jobs probably are doing good in their mental and physical life comparatively to everyone else. That can also be the scenario.
I think technology is it's going to like accelerate the incentive for risk taking for sure.
Yeah.
I think again, this is not a thing that is like good for everybody, because not everybody does well in that kind of a stressful environment. It is a stress-inducing thing to take risks, but actually, some people actually suffer if they are in a situation where they do not get that adventure. They are going to get into depression or anxiety because of that, and some people will actually get into depression if they are put in a situation where they are having to be adventurous on a forced to be on an adventurous basis. So I think there is going to be a spectrum of people, and I personally think that this kind of a discussion that's happening, right, regarding technology versus employment, I think it's predominantly it is like in a bubble where this is happening. I think it's predominantly for people who are safety oriented, who are concerned about this thing. And like, even I think it's also like very very much more prominent in developed societies, where they have built a complete societal grid where everything is monitored, everything is like logically connected to everything else. And we always complain that India is not that level of organized yet, but in some ways, like, I think India is going to is not going to be as affected as like people in the West. I think one aspect of safety that India has is that the West is going to be the earliest sufferers of this process, this whole like accelerated technological evolution compared to us, and we are already seeing that. I think, in my opinion, I think we are already seeing the benefits of not the benefits, but the effects of this whole thing happening in an accelerated fashion in the West. And I think we do have a little bit more of a buffer in terms of like ensuring this the safety and order in our own society by closely monitoring this and preparing for the setbacks. So, but I think overall I'm pretty much optimistic. I think that as I think we underestimate the resilience of human beings when we worry about these things. I think, but that's also the thing about human beings, is that we can foresee and we can prepare. And as you were saying, the pace of it makes it a collision instead of like a stop, right? And I think just us being able to foresee that prepares us to put on the safety pads and anticipate the fall, which will minimize the impact, right? So that is my overall verdict. I think we're in a much better place than what people would generally attribute.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, so just to clarify, I was not speaking about the people like, as I said, Raghav and you, Krishna. Like you are passionate in that sector, and that is the best place you can be. But I was talking about the people who are just there for, let's say, societal pressure or the image associated with an IT professional, a good white collar job, or the stability that comes with it. So I was talking about them. They can kind of benefit from this. Of course, it is a shade of gray, and we need to see which shade is it shifting more towards.
And for me, fortunately, we've been seeing these signs a little early on, right? Because like Raghav was mentioning, right, US is the early adopter, but India is the country of knowledge workers, right, where everything is offsourced, and you need so many people to build something that can be taken advantage across different countries, right? And we slowly started seeing this movement, right, where uh, the initial days, engineering used to be someone's dream, right? They want to be an engineer, they want to do this, do that. But then software engineering came in place, and engineering became something that is too common. And we do see, I mean, I'm not sure if that's true or not, that we do see places like IITs and all suffering with placements and everything happening, right? Because we kind of overkilled it with engineering and software in India. And trend also started migrating, right? People started migrating into hard sciences. Someone prefers a BSc physics rather than CSC computers in certain regions of the certain parts of the world. And that I've personally seen that happen. So I think we slowly are on the track, and this Gen AI piece is kind of accelerating that too. So hopefully that's where India will be more resilient and more prepared than most other countries when it comes to it. It's like we adapt fast, right? We don't need someone's external help or a helping hand from outside to basically make that change, right? So
I think in a way, right? Like India is going to be benefiting much more. It's not just going to be less affected. It's actually going to be opening up a lot more things, because like think about like the progress of, like, for example, um, like online payments or like digital transactions, right? If you look at Nigeria, right? Nigeria as a country, it is not as developed as the West. But if you look at the adoption of like digital payments in Nigeria compared to the America, Nigeria is way ahead, as is India, right? Like we are way ahead, because like we basically skipped a couple of generational iterative evolution of these technologies. So we're able to adopt, and we can actually maintain a certain level of like conservative attitude, and still enjoy the fruits of the labor of the Western nations, which were the pioneers of these technologies in a way. A lot of obviously, like things like internet and web based technologies, all of these things were pretty much happening mostly in the West compared to here. But we are basically enjoying the fruits of those labor, and we are able to like benefit from it without letting go of our roots in a lot of ways. So in the same way, right, I think AI, Gen AI, things like that, it's going to definitely enhance our way of life without compromising on our safety, compared to other societies where there is like constant evolution of like everything. I think people's way of life changes so much faster in Europe and US compared to here. I think as a society, we are still like, we still like to be more traditional, more conservative. And I think that is going to be like, seen as a positive as we move forward. I think we're already seeing that a lot of people are, a lot of smart people are turning to conservatism compared to liberalism, right? and I think it's already starting to happen in a small scale. You can notice it.
Yeah. And also the thing is, India is a scale game, right? For example, if you look at it, Google has started their digital payments initiative with India because they know if it can work in Indian market, it can work anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And they also know we are the early adopters of whatever technology that comes in, right? Although US has been kind of in the forefront for innovation, India is the place where technologies are adopted within matter of days, right? If you look at it, any particular eh, eh, for any technology company, India is kind of the golden bowl, right? Without getting to India, they cannot scale, they cannot become better, they cannot actually hit their targets, right? And the one thing that has been kind of holding us back is that we still kind of depend, or we think that someone else's technology is something we can help adopt, or we kind of never took it on our own, right? Like China did. They build everything in house, even though that there's a very huge company outside the country which is doing way too better. They still prefer having a company in house that does the exact same job or even slightly worse than them, right? But they would still prefer having that. So I kind of think we are headed in that direction because this acceleration of AI actually flats the entire battleground, right? It makes sure that the visibility is grown, and everyone, even now, today, Indians, people, I would say that, open sourcing of LLMs, especially, that is where most of this has happened, right? Rather than, I would appreciate Meta more than OpenAI, because they made sure that everyone has access to the power of AI rather than giving them access like a subscription based tool, right? So now we are looking at that in a way that you no longer need a US based company or someone else's help to start something on your own and start growing better, right? And that's good for the startup ecosystem. That's good for because look at it, right? US as a country has its own set of problems, but India has way too many sets of problems, which each of which can be turned into a startup and can be turned into a solution that can be implemented across the world, right? So that way, now we are in a position to tackle our problems on our own and build something for ourselves rather than wait for someone else to take that problem up and solve it for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much. I think this is your first session, Krishna. I don't think I've heard you before.
Yes, Raghav. I think this is the first session I just saw on the meetup group, so joined in.
It's wonderful. I hope you can join moving forward as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. So anything else before we close? Prince, what about you? How was it moderating this session?
It was great. I mean, we did have a comparatively less number of people, but the people that we had were really active, so it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this was a great discussion. I really enjoyed this whole thing. And yeah, I think I'm actually pretty excited about it. Technology, like, I think it showed, right? Like with what I was saying. I do like find that there's another aspect which we haven't really talked about, like, because like beyond employment, right? If you go to West and all, like they will not be talking about employment. They will be talking about like AI taking over the world, destroying our way of life, or existentially threatening humanity and things like that. Even that, I don't agree with that. I just think that I think it's kind of unwarranted, because like I think especially in the West, people don't realize how intelligent human beings are, that how adaptive we are. And I think they just like they have a very rudimentary way of like comparing human beings with machines. I think the level of intelligence that we possess is way more than even though ChatGPT is like able to like write 1,000-page essay, like 1,000-word essay in a matter of a second. That's much better than what you would get the best writer to do in the same amount of time. So I think there is this certain sense of like lack of context in the comparison. I think we should have a separate debate on this topic where, like, we talk about the more existential threats of AI. Because employment is something that makes more relevance in the Indian context. But if you look at the global context, right, people are actually worried about, like this kind of a Terminator style, like, iRobot style kind of like domination that robots can, or robots or intelligence, like, systems can create havoc. I mean, think about the prospect of somebody hijacking like self-driving car and then driving it through, the streets of New York or something. It would make for a really great sci-fi movie, and it's possible today. It's not like it's stuff of the future.
Yeah, that actually happened with Tesla cars. They confused them using just masking tape on speed boards and accelerated a car to up to 80 kmph in a 20, I mean, not kmph, 80 miles per hour in a 20 mile per hour road, and kind of caused a disruption. And I love the point where you brought in the Amish society, right? Although I don't see us completely going that way, but I would see societies of creative people, right? You can look at the Greek, right? People who are primarily focused on philosophy, focused on physics, mathematics, and physical labor per se. I mean, won't be called physical labor at that point because we'll be automating most of the stuff. I'd say, but there's also the other side of things, right? If you look at it today, we have something called adult ADHD, right? Something that's coming into people because you cannot hold context for longer than 10 seconds, right? Or 13 seconds to be exact. Because we are like, we must have faced it in our lives. You're just casually walking around, and without you thinking about it, you open Instagram and just scroll a couple of reels and then do something else, right? So that's our attention span going down and down, and to a point that you cannot hold your attention beyond anything, right? Because if you look at it, real world, the context doesn't change that often. You are walking on a road, you exactly know what you're doing. You're walking, you're walking, or you're getting to a movie theater, you know what you're going to watch for the next 2 hours. But in case of applications like Instagram, what you're doing is 1 second you're watching a video of someone cook, the next second you're watching a tech video, the next second you're watching. So you do not have this ability to predict the future anymore. Plus, that change in context is triggering a lot of what I would say is serotonin pathway. Basically, it's trying to tell you that this is how frequently things need to change to keep you engaged, right?
Yeah.
And real world, it does not happen. So
No, that's actually that's a
yeah,
wonderful point. I think this is something that we should have talked more about this whole thing. I think we should have a separate topic on this thing for sure,
Yeah.
because like this whole, like, adaptation, like, because technology is influencing our lifestyle in such a way that our brains are adapting around them.
Yeah.
And because Twitter and Instagram benefit from you being addicted to their platform, because like they're basically, their measure of success is like how engaged you are on the platform. So the more time you spend is good for their business metrics.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you basically like setting up for failure, and then you're surprised that we fail.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not going to work. I think that is also the reason why I'm optimistic about this technology, because when you have a situation like this, and people are living as automatons, like, basically being ordered around by the technologies to like move around in unconscious ways. Sometimes what you need is actually the impact. That collision is what you need to wake up. Right.
Yeah.
I think we are going to head in that direction where more and more people are going to wake up and they're going to live consciously. And the thing about the Amish society is that they made a conscious decision when they saw some things. And you can see something like that, something like that happen at a much larger scale. And I think more people are going to start meditating. They're going to start using dumb phones. I know a lot of my own friends, they've started using dumb phones, and they for them it's actually a privilege for you to live in this society still using a dumb phone. It's a privilege, because like everything is so like, on your WhatsApp. If you're not available on WhatsApp, you basically are at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So So I think we are going to shift in that kind of a mindset where more people are going back to the roots. I actually know a lot of people who are retiring from the IT industry to go into farming or something like that. They're fed up with the whole process, right? And I think that kind of stuff is going to happen at a larger scale. And I think it's net positive for the human being, like, human society as civilization, because more people will choose to take a more conscious approach. I had that thing 10 years ago. I went into that where I got rid of all technology. I sold everything, all of my laptops, everything, my phone. And I even didn't have a dumb phone. I just for some time I didn't even have a dumb phone. And I then got a dumb phone. I was using that for a while, and I was spending more of my time on meditation and yoga and things like this, working with my hands. I used to work in kitchens, and things like that. So it was really good. I think it was a space that led me to actually think about like the bigger things in life. I think that context is lost when you're basically like a battery for Instagram. Instagram is
Exactly.
basically like juicing up with you with your
Yeah,
consciousness.
yeah. That's a great analogy. Yeah, it is. Yeah,
So
and
I think that
the point where now we are so addicted to it, and all of us know, but we kind of find it difficult to get out of it, right? For me, that is going to be the dangers of AI, because you will be in a, for example, you can look at a small aspect of what this bought in, right? Today, you do not remember any phone numbers, right? It can be good, it can be bad, whatever it is, but even in emergencies, you still cannot remember a phone number, right? Forget that. But after Google came in, there are no scholars per se. It's just that people who have enough time to go through and search for, which is a good thing for everyone. But end of the day, even the quality of research can be a little here and there. It can improve also, but quality of an individual goes down comparatively to a quality. The quality of the group increases, but the quality of the individual kind of goes down, right? So that's where I'm also looking at. It's you have that experiment where you put a frog in a boiling water, right? And you slowly increase the temperature to a point that it dies, right? It does not notice that you're being boiled to death, but it just dies, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of where we will be with AI, to a point that we do not realize the things that have been working. For example, it can be as simple as this: you enabled online banking to everyone, and there is a point in time where scammers, so in this case, in this particular case, you are just talking about another human trying to take advantage of a human, right? So all they have to do is give you a phone call and talk to you for the next 15 minutes, and they can scam you into sending out some money. It might not be prevalent with everyone, but it still happens to people who are not very adept with the technology, right? For example, they can give our parents a call, right? And they will simply say your account is blocked, so and so and so. Give me this details to have it unblocked, right? As simple as that, right? And they still, although they are very wise and very, adaptable in every other area, when it comes to certain of these areas, they might fall for it at that moment, right? And that's just one person trying to take advantage of the other person. Now, think of it like this: AI probably will never try to take advantage of humans, but the optimization for the AI is not something that we can. For example, Instagram is Facebook on a bigger scale, is supposed to be optimized for connecting people, is supposed to be creating communities of people. Rather than that, now it is optimized to take your attention, right? Those certain mistakes that AI cannot foresee, nor the human, are the points that we need to be worried about in the future, is what I think, right?
No,
Because we
I
will,
think
yeah,
that is the fundamental fabric of reality, man.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
the uncertainty is embedded in every atom. You cannot
yeah,
circumvent it. You are going
yeah,
to so uncertainty is the thing that we have to, as human beings. That is the whole reason why we are conscious. I mean, I'm not saying that is the justification for it. I'm just saying that
mm,
that is the uncertainty. If it's the adversity, then consciousness is our weapon against it, right?
yeah,
So I think that the fact that even for example the example of Instagram
mm,
is I think it is actually a good thing that Instagram is like hooking all these like unsuspecting human beings into this trap, so that like the incentive is that you have to like go back to your roots and like become more conscious to overcome this. So it is actually providing the fodder for personal evolution. It is incentivizing personal evolution by putting you in a trap if you're not conscious enough. And I think that is actually the nature of reality itself. If you do not if you're not conscious, if you're not good enough, if you're not fast enough, if you're not strong enough, it will be fatal for you. And I think the fact that there is an adversity, that even if it's synthetic, like Instagram's a synthetic adversity, I would say. And if you're not able to consciously use it for your advancement, and if you're basically instead becoming a battery for it, then that's on you.
No,
I
I think see, the problem comes there is it's a numbers game, right? For example, in a country of 100 people, let's say, one person is conscious. That's usually how these ratios work, right? Let's say one person is conscious. He'll find it difficult to stay off the platform due to the peer pressure coming in. It's probably okay for us because we grew up without some of these things and we understand that there's a world outside. But if you look at the generation that's born into this, if you ask, so when we were kids, right, when people asked us around, what do you want to become when you grow up? The first response is an astronaut, right, or a scientist, and then comes everything else, police officer, there's that, everything comes in. But if you ask the kids today what they want to become, the first thing that they're saying is influencer. That is a job role that only exists on a platform which is completely controlled by one organization, right? So that kind of influence you kind of cannot beat. It's like you can take the horse to a river, but you cannot make it drink the water, right? It's difficult for us to tell them that that's not good for them. So that's where
I
I'm
think
worried about.
it also brings in the question of the value of parenting. I see that a
Yeah.
lot of Indian people, right? They will say that I grew up with none of these artificial restrictions about TV and all these things, but I'm
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Now look at so their kids will be like playing with their iPads, and they're on their phone all day, and they're on their TV if they're not on their
Yeah,
phone.
that's bad.
So
Yeah.
so this is like like not the same as your Doordarshan that you grow up on. This is like
Yeah.
a much more of a it's got like a much more of a impact on your neural pathways. It kind of like
Yeah.
even, like for example, I think moving forward, there's even the whole virtual reality headsets, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's like it's actually like I have a neuroscience background, and I know for a fact that it's going to change your brain chemistry you don't even need to have a neuroscience degree. You just
Yeah.
like just understand the basic things about like when you do something over and over, your brain adapts to it. That's the whole point of the brain being
Yeah.
such an important organ in our intelligence, that it has a high rate of plasticity, and it's gonna keep adapting to these things. So when you have something like that, like for example like a device that is meant to project visual input, and that kind of like separates your tactile pathways and things like that, it is going to disorient you. You're going to be less and less functional in the actual reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you have things like that, that is definitely something that is going to invoke the kind of mindset that the Amish have. Like where they do take a certain ideological stance. You
Yeah.
cannot be like following traditions blindly. That is again, when I look at it that way, like I just feel like it's again an incentive for you to be a conscious human being. Like you have to be,
No,
you have to have.
yeah, we have incentive, but the worry comes also in the number of people that are Amish, right? Because we can't simply say group of people, just very small group of people are actually living that way. And you can see that that's also not by their, it's I would say the people, the next generation of Amish probably might not prefer being Amish, because you can look at it like this: there's a lot of incentive to not be Amish than to be Amish. That's the same thing that happens with this platform. There's a lot of incentive to be on Instagram, to be a influencer, than to not be one, right? So and human minds are not always that resilient, is what I would say. Although our strength is our weakness, right? The thing that can keep us away from these things, the willpower, the ability to take our own decision or to move away from the crowd is also the same thing that keep us pushing, because despite of everything, we are social animals, right? So we are bound to be with the society in one form or the other. It can be physical meeting, it can be communities, or it can be the digital platforms that where everyone is kind of being social. So
I think your prediction about the Amish, like defecting from their way of life, it's actually a lot of people would think that. A lot of people would even say that it's impossible to sustain this community. But actually, if you look at the actual figures, right, I think it's like very small percentage, like 15% of the population actually moves away from the way of life. And it's like the thing is that these people, they actually have a tradition, where they will spend a certain amount of time, like they'll spend a certain amount of time going and exploring at a certain point, and a lot of them will come back because like they feel that they will understand the merit of their way of life, and they will
I think
consciously
it's
adopt
both merit and also the community piece, right? Because their entire families, the people that they grew up with, the people that they know are again in the Amish society, and they cannot connect with anyone else outside it, which brings them back, right? So I think communities is a good answer for most of these problems, I would say. Right. So we'll have to have a community of people who are essentially being conscious about these things, and that would satisfy both the ends, right? You are getting your social part of things set in so that you're not getting into that depressive routineless loop, but at the same time trying to get advantage of the technology because it is carefully moderated, and only at least the people who are wise enough to take a choice on what negative impacts that something might have. It's like moderated use of technology is something that we should start building into communities, I would say.
But we live in a society where there are decisions being made in the headquarters in Silicon Valley that impacts your child's life. So you can't like be in an isolationist mindset when that is the case. So I would say that in a certain sense, like you have to, like I said, it's basically accelerating the incentive for consciousness, and I think that is one of the main reasons why I see it as a whole positive thing. And I think it's going to make people at least critical thinkers, if not like fully conscious human beings. So now this was a really good discussion, man. I appreciate you staying back to have these conversations.
Thank you. Thanks, Raghav. It's been a pleasure, man.
Hope you can join moving forward as well.
Definitely. I'll be joining.
Awesome.
Thank you. So can you let me know the process? Like you host these debates, or is it?
We have a official website. I'm going to put it in the chat here. So it's basically the debateclub.info. So if you go there, you will find the links to our meetup and our WhatsApp community and all these things. And we're actually building a separate application for this as well. So like we will soon be talking about that as well. But so in the WhatsApp community, you will have the discussions around this. We also have a text-based channel where you can come and discuss things with people who are interested. And most of the updates will be in the WhatsApp channel. But if you go to the meetup page, you will see the upcoming sessions and what are the titles for those things as well.
Got it. Yeah, I think I've joined the WhatsApp group, and do let me know if I can contribute for the app that you're trying to build. So I have a background in React Native as well. So anything that I can do to help. Yeah.
Why don't you send me a message DM on WhatsApp? Let's have a dedicated call about that. Yeah.
Sure. Let me.
So I would be the the owner of that.
Raghav.
Raghav. Yeah.
Okay. Let me text you. So where are you based out of, Raghav?
I'm in Chennai.
You're in Chennai. Okay, awesome. I'm from Bangalore. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, man. We'll connect separately on that. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
To you. Bye.